The two texts that I've chosen today are Montana 1948 by Larry Watson and In the Name of Identity by Ayman Malouf. The global issue that we'll be attacking today is racism and how one person feels entitled over another. In Montana 1948, line 4 states, "That superstition, David," said my father, "Indian superstition." To get a background of the quote, Mary is extremely sick and she refuses to go to a renowned doctor in the city of Montana, whose name is Frank. She doesn't want to go to Frank because he dislikes Native Americans and Indians and takes his power. He misuses his power that he has as a doctor to secretly rape women. Now, when Mary tells this to David and Wesley, they both dismiss her claims because they believe that it's just a superstition and an Indian superstition. So they discard the fact of what Mary is saying. Now, the word Indian superstition is used. We can infer that Wesley and David have a unconscious bias towards a certain group of people over another, meaning that Wesley and or David would value Frank's words over Mary's words only for the reason being that Mary is a certain type of color and Frank is a certain type of color. If we were if we were to go two lines further into the text, we see it states, "My father did not like Indians." Now, this ultimately supports our claim that we made above, saying that David and Wesley have an unconscious bias towards a certain group. Um, what this tells us is that David did not dismiss Mary's words because Frank is a renowned doctor that's much loved in the city of Montana. He dismissed it because he did not like Indians. Since David did not like Indians, he felt that he had a power over Mary and Native Americans in general because he was of Caucasian descent. Now, what this shows to us is that David felt like he empowered over all people of color because of his personal uh, racist remarks and beliefs. When looking at line 12, we see that David states that he was never born a racist and he only experienced racism and had a hatred towards Native Americans when he was only 7 or 8. Uh, this ties in globally because no one is born a racist and it's completely environmental and how someone is brought up. Um, Prior to the line in from lines 10 to 11, he states that nevertheless, he believed Indians, with only a few human exceptions, were ignorant, lazy, superstitious, and responsible. And all of these things he learned when he was only 7 or 8, which could affect a child's perception um, on Native Americans or uh, colored group of people in general while they're growing up. The specific example that David states is when he got a pair of sandals and he was wearing them out and about, where David's father states in line 14, the father said, "He wears those and soon he'll be as flat footed and lazy as an Indian man." From this, we see that David first learned about racism from his father. And when he learned this from his father, it never went away and he still coincides with it as an older adult in his day-to-day life, which uh, which we can infer that he still has that seed of racism in him from his childhood that he just can't take away. We can see that this seed of racism is placed into his heart from his childhood when he says in line 28 to 29, we've got a sick Indian girl over here. Frank, Gail wants to know if you can stop by. Now, the word sick Indian is used by David to show empowerment and entitlement over Mary. And furthermore, it just shows that he is the man in charge and he's taking care of everything. This ties back into the global issue of how David had a seed of racism in his heart, and now he believes that he is entitled and a lot more powerful than Mary, who's just a Native American Indian. These racist remarks can be shown throughout the whole text, especially in line 34 to 35, where David states, she didn't say why. My guess is she's never been to anyone but the tribal medicine man. This again is just stereotyping Indians and Native Americans in general by historically Native Americans only having tribal type of doctors and nothing too fancy. Back then, because the economy wasn't built up, we can see that David uses these type of words of tribal medicine man as a joke, trying to stereotype them, just so he can feel more powerful and more entitled than Mary, just for his racist remarks and how racist he was generally, and how he was brought up with the racism type of seed in his heart. Now, moving on to our translated text, In the Name of Identity by Ayman Malouf, we see that this text is completely different from Montana 1948 because it is in first person, and there isn't a specified location as in Montana 1948. The location was the city of Montana. Over here, it's more of a personal experience and personal opinion. Well, when reading the text, we see that the author states, a faithful Muslim may think that the behavior of the Taliban contradicts or does not contradict both the letter and the spirit of his religion. Now, when the author states this, when he talks about both the letter and the spirit of his religion, it indirectly states that the scripture of what Muslims believe, which is the Quran. Now, we can infer when the author states that the Muslim people who believe that it does not contradict the letter or the scripture of the Quran are people who are actually doing the bombings and are the people who are the real terrorists. And from these people, we can see that from a third person's perspective, as we see today in the news, where ISIS is bombing, certain countries, bombing planes. We see that people might have subconscious, fear towards Muslims or Islam in general, and furthermore have a certain hatred towards them. With this in mind, the author himself, he states from lines 8 to 10 that he believes that the behavior of Muslims in the media and the news outlets and what they show is very radical, as he states in line 9. That is a kind of extreme behavior of planting bombs, banning music, legalizing female circumcision, is inconsistent with my interpretation of Islam, meaning that he feels a certain type of way when he sees this being portrayed in Muslim countries, for example, of like Saudi Arabia, where he feels scared and does not feel that it's right and doesn't coincide with the religion of Islam. This could furthermore lead the author to believe that what he's doing is right and what the Muslim community is doing is completely wrong, which could furthermore lead him and other, not just him, other people around the world, to feel like they're superior to the Muslim community. Further into the text, we see that the author supports my claim when he states in line 13, they may be cited to tolerate or to condemn slavery, uh, to venerate icons or burn them, to ban wine or to allow it, um, to advocate either democracy or theocracy, right? This is the author's way of saying that he doesn't completely agree with the religion of Islam and the teachings that are given. Um, in conclusion, from both the texts, we can see that uh, racism can impact on how a person uh, feels towards another sect of people. Uh, in Montana 1948, we saw that Frank felt entitlement and power over Mary because he was of Caucasian descent, right? In the name of identity, we see that the author feels that he is more superior and he is more right than another sect of people, purely based off of the religion and skin color.